Welcome back. As you know, I'm Eli the Computer Guy here for the Daily Blob, where we say, yep, Tesla is effed. Tesla is effed. Put a fork in it. It's done. So I think this is an interesting story because I've been talking about Tesla lately, just because Tesla has stagnated, right? It's fascinating to look at companies that take over the world and then die, especially for somebody like me, being 40, almost 49 at this point in time. I remember when AOL was AOL and the Yahoo was the Yahoo of the world, and Research in Motion owned the BlackBerry market because we didn't call them smartphones at that time, right? We've seen so many companies come and go. Right now we're seeing Intel die. What the Oh, you talk about a company I would not have expected to die a god-awful death. I mean, Intel, right? How could Intel be a failure? Well, it is, because that's what happens in our capitalist system, right? You have the new startup comes in, it thumbs its nose at whatever's happened before. It basically grows and expands. It eats the old guard. It eats the competition until it becomes big and fat, and it becomes so fat it can't see its own toes anymore. So therefore, it stops getting exercise, and then the new competitors come in to start eating at it, and they take it down, and the next generation starts, right? I've been talking about this with Tesla because Tesla's a weird one. Tesla, to be clear, for all the snarky Elon Musk fanboys out there, Tesla should be doing better than it is. Like, I genuinely don't get it. I think it has to do with having a CEO that only shows up to work one day a week. I mean, imagine if Tesla has gotten this far with a CEO that shows up to work one day a week. Imagine if they had a full-time CEO. You know, imagine if for that $50 billion in compensation, he actually did a 40-hour work week for Tesla. Imagine. Anyways, right? But the models of the vehicles are getting old. The full self-driving is failing. The Robotaxi is lackluster, to say best. The Cybertrucks are an abject failure. God knows what's going to happen with the semis. But we keep hearing Tesla, 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 Tesla. And one of the things that I've tried to point out is that with Tesla was able to expand in a market where there was no real competition. And you think about this, right? You think about BlackBerry. BlackBerry was able to become the king of smartphones, or the king of Blackberries, because that's what they were at the time, simply because nobody else really competed in that particular area. Yes, my favorite phone was something called a Motorola Q, but they weren't really competitions to Blackberries. They were also RANs, essentially, right? When you look at a lot of the companies that exploded, the IBM PC back in the day, right, there wasn't a lot of competition there. But then as time goes by, there becomes more and more and more competition. And then at some point, IBM sells their entire computer division to Lenovo because they can no longer make money on it anymore. So anyways, I think that's where we're getting to the place in the Tesla storyline, where basically they have simply plateaued. Their CEO is out of energy, out of new ideas, a tired, fat old man. And so the up-and-coming competition is going to basically eat them alive. And there is real competition out there. So when we talk about the Robotaxi, one of the reasons I bring up the Robotaxi is because Elon Musk himself said if they do not get autonomous driving in Tesla vehicles, Tesla is worthless. He stated if they don't get autonomous driving, Tesla's worthless. Not me, he did. And they seem to be failing at that. They seem to truly be failing at that. And so when you look at the Robotaxi competing against Waymo, which is not a competition, right? A boot does not compete against an ant. An ant is Robotaxi. Waymo is currently the boot, right? In one city, Waymo has twice the geofence area that Tesla does, and Waymo is in numerous cities. They have 700 square miles of geofence at this point in time, and Tesla basically just has Austin. But one of the warnings with all this is with technology, something to consider when you're looking at technology products and the technology life cycle is that in the beginning, there's a big question about whether or not you can create a technology, right? Whether or not it is even possible. So way back in the day, the original Tesla vehicles, I think they literally used essentially laptop battery cells, right? You're talking about lithium-ion batteries for cars. These things, their battery packs were not produced. So they went out and they bought consumer-grade batteries, basically linked them together, and that's what created the battery pack, right? So there was a big question. I do believe the Saturn electric vehicles back in the day, they had lead acid batteries because they knew that would work. But there was a big question of, can you even get a vehicle? Can you build and get a vehicle to reliably work off of lithium-ion batteries? And so a lot of people out there, a lot of these companies, they didn't want to bother with it, right? They're making enough money selling big-ass F-150s. Why the fuck are they going to worry about laptop batteries? That's not what they want to worry about, right? So that's one of the things, is Tesla comes in and they prove you can actually build a reliable vehicle doing this. And then the next step is to prove that you can then put that into production and make money off of it. And then they've gone to that, right? And basically, as you go along, it becomes easier and easier for competitors to come in, because once you've proved it can be done, then everybody else knows it can be done. Once you prove that you can scale and put into production, then other people know that. And at a certain place, 10 years down the road, the competition looks at it and goes, oh, we can do that. Right? 10 years ago in 2010, people are like, oh, I don't know if we can do that. 2025, people are like, yeah, of course we can do that. It's easy, right? Well, one of the interesting things is if you look at things like autonomous vehicles, is that, again, with technology, it's all about proving the point, proving the reliability, and proving the scaling potential. Once you do those things, it becomes easier and easier and easier. And that's where you see with autonomous driving. So I remember, was it 2005 with the DARPA challenge back in the day, where Congress mandated at some point there so many Army vehicles would be autonomous. And so DARPA came out with the DARPA challenge. And the very first time they sent vehicles to drive down a dirt road, I don't think any of them went past like a mile. They all fell off the road within something like a mile. And then I think it was like the next year, like 2 or 3 cars finished the race. And so they proved that was possible. And they've been moving forward with this autonomous driving since then. And so we've seen Tesla have their autonomous driving. We've seen Waymo have their autonomous driving. We've seen numerous autonomous driving startups out there. But the interesting thing with this is they are proving the concept. They are proving what works. They are proving, does LiDAR work? They are proving, does visual sensors work? They are proving what other sensors work. They're proving how all this operates. And as they prove that out, it becomes easier and easier and easier to compete within this particular industry. And that's why it should scare the hell out of Tesla investors, because now Uber is coming in. And one of the things you'll know about Uber is Uber has an agreement with Waymo. So you can use the Uber app in a number of different cities to get a Waymo. But here's the thing, Uber is basically a taxi company. It's not necessarily a car company. So they're basically renting those services. And so now they're going to go and they're going to buy this additional vehicle. And the cool thing about this additional vehicle, this comes from Lucid, is this actually has a self-driving package that comes from an entirely different company. So they're going to buy the Lucid vehicles, plus they're going to buy the self-driving package, then they're going to staple all this stuff together, and then that will be another car that is on the road. And there'll be different cars on the road, and different cars on the road, and different cars on the road, and different cars on the road. And then all of a sudden, it's not going to be, oh wow, look at a Tesla Robotaxi. It'll be, oh look, a Robotaxi or whatever else is one of the 30 different cars that are on the road. Lucid Gravity Robotaxis will hit the Uber app next year. So we'll see if this actually happens. This is the plan. I will say with Lucid, take it with a grain of salt. Take it with a grain of salt. But, maybe it'll happen. Uber will invest $300 million in Lucid as part of an arrangement to buy 20,000 of its Gravity SUVs. Tesla is hardly the only electric vehicle maker that's dabbling in the autonomous taxi space. Lucid Motors on Thursday announced that its 3-row Gravity SUV will serve as a robotaxi on the Uber app starting next year. It's a major deal for the fledgling EV startup and the latest step in Uber's quest to become the ultimate robotaxi platform. Let's see here. Since the Gravity doesn't come with autonomous capabilities, so they're getting the Gravity, it's like a minivan type thing from Lucid, but it doesn't have autonomous capabilities. They're going to suction cup those autonomous capabilities onto the Gravity. It doesn't come with autonomous capabilities. Driverless technology will be provided by Nuro, the startup historically focused on developing autonomous delivery vehicles, but recently pivoted to licensing its tech to automated and ride-hailing companies. Lucid will install Nuro's hardware, made up of LiDAR sensors, radars, and cameras into Gravity SUVs on its assembly line in Arizona. Uber and its fleet partners will buy those SUVs, and they'll be available to order exclusively via the Uber app. app. As part of the deal, Uber will invest $300 million in Lucid, big news for a young automaker that's still burning cash. Moreover, Uber and his partners aim to buy and deploy at least 20,000 Lucid vehicles over 6 years. The proceeds from those sales will be separate from the $300 million initial investment. For context, Lucid sold some 10,000 Air sedans last year. They would expect sales to rise this year after the recent introduction of the Gravity. Those Gravity SUVs will hit the Uber app in dozens of markets, the company said, starting with an unnamed, quote, major U.S. city. A Lucid spokesperson said the Gravity was designed from the start to serve as an autonomous vehicle with redundant braking and steering systems to ensure safe operation, even if something breaks. It's the latest in a flurry of robotaxi-related deals from Uber. The ride-hailing giant scrapped its in-house effort to develop self-driving cars years ago following a fatal accident, and has since then placed a slew of bets on other players, including industry leader Waymo. Waymo's self-driving Jaguars are exclusively available via the Uber app in Atlanta, Georgia, Austin, and Texas. Uber has also struck similar deals with Baidu, WeRide, AV-Ride, Wavy, and May Mobility. Plus, a deal with Volkswagen means you may be soon choosing between an autonomous ID Buzz or Gravity someday soon. And I think what's really interesting about this is the idea of more and more business partners making money from this transaction, right? I think about it when I have my computer repair store. Right, so when we had the computer repair store, here's the thing. When I sold Wintel computers, I could make $200 in assembly fees, right? You assemble the PC and you basically, add $200 to the price, which allowed me to make $200. Plus, if you need to move data over, if you need it installed in your house, the whole 9 yards, there's more and more money there. Right, so here's the thing. Back in the day, you had Apple. So with Apple, right, if I went and I bought an Apple, I could buy an Apple computer for the exact same cost that a customer could buy an Apple computer. So if I went and bought an Apple computer for a customer of mine, I might be able to charge them like an hour for a service fee or something like that, but that was about it. So what company do you think I sold a lot of product for? What company do you think I was incentivized to sell a lot of product for? It was for the Wintel type world, right? Every single Windows computer I sold, I made $200. Every single Mac that I sold, basically it just ended up being a pain in the ass, to be honest with you, right? And so by Windows creating this environment where a lot of different people could make money off of selling the exact same computer, that incentivized everybody to want more of those computers to be sold, right? So the case manufacturers supported Windows, wanted Windows computers to be sold. And the graphics card manufacturers wanted Windows computers to be sold. And the RAM vendors wanted Windows computers to be sold, right? Everybody in this environment was making money. Therefore, we all offered free advertising for Windows because that's how, we were paying our mortgages or whatever else. Now, you look at this with Google, right? When Google came out, whatever the hell they're doing right now, they supported the web ecosystem back in the day. If you build websites, you can put ads on your websites. If you do videos, you can do videos and make money, right? Basically, the idea being is that you make money from Google's success, so therefore you support Google and you offer advertising for Google. One of the curious things with Tesla, when you look at Tesla is this closed little environment, right? They build the cars, they build the autonomous driving. Anyways. Yeah. And they're offering the service, right? So they're the only ones that make money within that environment. What's interesting now, as you see with Uber, is Uber is now going out there and you're looking at how they're doing autonomous driving. So you have Uber as the platform, and so they get their cut. And then you have Gravity that creates the vehicle. So they focus on creating the actual vehicle itself and they get their cut. And then Neuro, or whatever company, they deal with the autonomous driving component, and so they get their cut. And so what happens here is you have multiple different corporations all being able to get their 5%, 10% cut off of the vehicle, and that incentivizes them to want this whole way of doing things to be successful, right? If Tesla becomes successful, Elon Musk makes a shit ton of money. If Uber becomes successful, Uber makes money, and Lucid makes money, and Neuro makes money, and what other companies are involved make money. And I think that's going to be an interesting thing to think about going forward, is how all of that works out at the end of the day. Is a IBM modeled world of autonomous taxi service going to be more successful than an Apple modeled world of autonomous taxi service? Especially when the guy creating the Apple version of the autonomous taxi service builds for what he wants and not what anybody else wants. You know, you think about it. Like if you think about the Robotaxi, right? The Robotaxi that we've seen, not the Model Ys, but the actual Robotaxi, are these two-seater pieces of crap. They're basically two-seater things, Miatas that look like they were built in the 1980s, right? Now, if you look at that, or if you look at this, which do you want to get in? If you need to go on a trip in an autonomous vehicle, do you want to get into some two-seater Miata from the 1980s, or would you like to get into a nice minivan where you've actually got some space? You know, your ass isn't 5 inches off the ground and the whole 9 yards. So I'll be curious to see where this goes. I honestly believe with this whole autonomous taxi service that essentially the form factor is going to win. If you look at the technology is amazing, but at a certain time, who the hell cares? Think about it with smart TVs. You buy a smart TV. Do you really care what operating system is on a smart TV? Think about this. Within my lifetime, a smart TV would blow my mind. If you show me a smart TV in 1991, mind blown. Blah. You show me a smart TV in 2025, who the hell cares? Does it have Tizen? It doesn't have Android OS on it. Does it have Tizen on it? Do you use Apple OS or whatever else? Now, here's the thing. For specific services, like if I'm watching Apple TV or something, I might care about the operating system on the smart TV. Otherwise, I don't really care. Who the fuck cares? It's a goddamn operating system. What do I care about? I care about the size. Is it the size that I want? Is it OLED versus QLED? Is it a whole bunch of these other things? That's what becomes more important. The operating system becomes just invisible to the form factor of the product. And that's where I look at with autonomous vehicles. I think as they dial in the autonomous vehicle technology, the autonomous vehicle technology for most users is going to become less important, and it's going to be more that form factor. As I've talked about before, I really like the Zooks. Like if I was going to bet anything, I think the Zooks, right? Toaster on wheel, big ass fucking toaster on wheels. That's what I want in a city. All right, if I go travel to a city, if I go to Seattle or I go to San Francisco, I order a Zook. I get a nice big ass toaster on wheels. Pulls up, I can get in, right? My back, right? I've got aches and pains. I've been around the block. I want a nice tall seat. I want to be able to walk into my Zooks. I want to sit down in a nice tall seat. I want to be able to sit up relatively straight, see what's going on. I don't want to be in a fucking sports car. I don't want to pretend I'm in Blade Runner. I'm a middle-aged guy that has fucking back problems that just wants to sit in a fucking autonomous vehicle and be taken to I don't know where the hell I'm being taken to, right? And I think that's going to be the curious thing, is how the form factor works out. So anyways, what do you think about this? What do you think about Lucid Gravity's Robotaxis? What do you think about this idea with Uber, where Uber is basically the platform for the service? Then you have a manufacturer of the vehicles, whether it's Lucid, whether it's VW, whether it's whoever else. And then on top of that, then you add the autonomous vehicle components onto that. And so therefore you have 3 different manufacturers that are all able to make money. Plus you're able to mix and match, products and services for specifically what you're looking for. Do you think that is the model that will work out? Or do you think, Elon Musk's vision is the way of the future? Put your thoughts down below. Now give us a thumbs up, give us a thumbs down, give us an awesome comment or a horrible comment. It is all in interaction. It's all in interaction, because that's the modern world of YouTube. And with that, see y'all later.